The day Jamal Rivers ran naked through Maplewood Street screaming at spirits no one else could see, the entire neighborhood froze. He was on top of a parked car, his tall frame shaking, his dreadlocks wild and dusty, his dark brown skin covered in chalk markings like something out of an old village ritual. His eyes were wide, bloodshot, and empty. He beat his chest and shouted at the sky. "They're coming. They're coming to take everything, even the ones inside my house." Children who had been playing basketball dropped the ball and ran. Mothers pulled toddlers indoors. Old Mr. Jenkins, who had seen everything in his 70 years, muttered, "That boy has lost his mind." Inside the small brick house at the corner, Jamal's wife, Simone Rivers, stood by the window, her hands trembling. Simone was 32, light brown skin, long braids always neatly tied back, usually calm and composed. But that afternoon, her face was pale. Behind her stood Jamal's younger sister, Keisha Rivers, 26, short natural hair, sharp eyes, always confident. She held her phone tightly, recording through the curtain. "Don't go outside," Keisha whispered. But Simone wasn't looking at Jamal. She was looking at the man standing across the street. Marcus Hill. Tall, clean-shaven, dark skin, expensive suit, watching. Marcus wasn't afraid. He was smiling. Jamal suddenly jumped off the car and ran straight toward his own house. He began banging on the front door like a stranger trying to break in. "Let me in. They locked me out. The demons locked me out." Simone gasped. Keisha grabbed her arm. "Don't open it. He's not himself." The banging grew louder. Then suddenly, silence. The banging stopped. The screaming stopped. Even the birds seemed to hold their breath. Simone slowly moved toward the door. Keisha shook her head. "Don't." But before either of them could decide, the back door creaked open. Someone had entered. And the person who stepped into the kitchen was not Jamal. It was Marcus. And he had a key. Simone's mouth went dry. Keisha's phone slipped from her hand and hit the floor. Outside, Jamal began laughing. Not a confused laugh. Not a broken laugh. A deep, controlled laugh. And inside the house, Marcus locked the back door quietly. That was the moment everything changed. But to understand how Jamal Rivers ended up pretending to lose his mind in the middle of his own neighborhood, you have to go back 3 months earlier. Back to when everything looked perfect. Back to when Jamal still trusted the 2 women in his life more than anyone else. 3 months earlier. Jamal Rivers was the kind of man people respected. 35 years old, strong build, deep voice, always working. He owned a small construction company in Atlanta, built from nothing after years of struggle. He wasn't rich, but he was stable. And in his community, stability meant everything. He loved his wife Simone deeply. They had been married for 6 years. No children yet, but they were trying. Or at least, that's what he believed. His sister Keisha had moved in after losing her apartment. Jamal didn't hesitate. "Family is family," he had said. Simone had smiled when Keisha moved in. But smiles can hide storms. At first, everything seemed normal. Until Jamal noticed small things. His business account was missing money. Not huge amounts, just enough to make him question himself. Simone began guarding her phone more closely. Keisha started asking strange questions about property ownership and insurance policies. One evening, Jamal came home early from work after a canceled meeting. The house was quiet. Too quiet. He heard whispers in the bedroom. A man's voice. Not loud, not panicked, calm. Jamal's heart pounded as he stepped closer. The bedroom door was slightly open. And inside, he saw Marcus Hill sitting on his bed. Marcus had been Jamal's former business partner. The two had started the construction company together years ago, but Marcus left after an argument about money and different visions. Jamal had trusted him like a brother once. Now Marcus was sitting on Jamal's bed. With Simone. And Keisha. All 3 of them looking at paperwork. Simone jumped when she saw Jamal. Marcus didn't. He just smiled politely. "Man, you're home early," Marcus said smoothly. Keisha stood quickly. "We were just talking about an investment opportunity." Jamal's stomach tightened. Investment? Without him? Simone rushed forward, touching his chest gently. "Baby, we wanted to surprise you. Marcus has connections. He said he could help grow your company." Marcus leaned back casually. "No hard feelings from the past, Jamal. I've matured." The words sounded clean. Too clean. Jamal nodded slowly. But something in his spirit shifted that day. That night, he couldn't sleep. He lay beside Simone, staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was steady. Too steady. He began to notice how often Marcus visited. How comfortable he was. How Keisha laughed at his jokes a little too hard. And then one night, Jamal overheard something he was never meant to hear. Keisha whispering, "Once everything is transferred, we won't need him." Simone's voice answered softly, "Just be patient." Jamal's heart shattered quietly in the dark. But instead of confronting them, he made a decision. A dangerous decision. If they thought he was a fool, he would become one. He would go mad. And watch who revealed themselves. Because sometimes, when you act broken, people show you exactly how they plan to break you. And Jamal Rivers was about to test the two people he loved most. He just didn't know who would truly fall for it, or who was playing an even bigger game. The knock at the door echoed through the small house like a warning bell. Simone's hands were trembling so badly she almost couldn't turn the handle. Keisha lingered behind, silent, her eyes sharp, scanning every movement. When Simone finally opened the door, Marcus Hill stood there as casually as if he were coming to borrow sugar. His expensive suit was neat, his shoes polished, and his smile was effortless. But his hand, subtly visible under the coat, gripped the handle of a small knife. "Marcus," Simone's voice was shaky, What are you doing here?" He tilted his head slightly, his grin widening. "I just thought I'd check in on my old friend. Is Jamal okay?" Inside, Jamal's eyes glinted with something Simone couldn't place. He wasn't screaming. He wasn't flailing. He was waiting, calm, almost invisible in the shadows, his presence more powerful than the two of them combined. Keisha took a step forward. "Marcus, put that down," she said firmly, but Marcus didn't react. He held the knife loosely, almost as a threat and almost as a prop. Jamal finally moved. He stepped into the dim light, his body relaxed but his stare locked on Marcus. "I told you to stay away," Jamal said quietly, but there was an undercurrent of steel in his voice. Marcus's smile didn't falter. Now, Jamal, we're all friends here, aren't we?" Simone felt a chill run down her spine. She looked at Jamal, then at Marcus, then at her sister. This was no longer about simple betrayal or suspicion. Something deeper, more dangerous, was unfolding. Suddenly, Jamal reached behind him and pulled out a small bag. He tossed it onto the table. The contents spilled out, more photos, videos on flash drives, even a few envelopes marked with names and dates. Marcus's eyes flicked to the evidence, but his grin stayed. "Planning to blackmail me, old friend," he said. Jamal laughed softly, almost amused. "No, I'm testing loyalty, seeing who will fall for the act and who will try to take everything from me." Simone gasped. She felt sick, realizing the magnitude of what Jamal had been doing. He hadn't gone mad. Every strange action, every scream, every odd ritual was a test. Keisha stepped closer to the table, her hand brushing over the items. "Jamal, this is extreme," she said, but her voice betrayed excitement, not fear. Jamal tilted his head. "Extreme, perhaps. Necessary, absolutely." He looked at Marcus, and the intensity in his gaze made Marcus shift slightly, though he didn't drop the knife. Suddenly, there was a loud crash from the kitchen window. Simone jumped. Marcus's head turned sharply toward the noise. Jamal, however, didn't flinch. His body was still, poised like a predator waiting for the right moment. Outside, the neighborhood remained quiet. But someone had been watching. Someone had been waiting for the chaos to begin. Then Jamal spoke, low and deliberate. "This ends tonight. Everyone's truth will come out whether they want it to or not." Keisha's eyes widened. Marcus's smile faltered. Simone felt her knees weaken. And then Jamal did the unthinkable. He walked toward Marcus, deliberately, slowly, like he was welcoming a storm. But as he got closer, he suddenly twisted, grabbed the knife from Marcus's hand in one swift motion, and pressed it gently against his own chest. The room froze. Simone could barely breathe. Keisha's phone had slipped onto the floor, recording every moment. Jamal smiled, calm and terrifying. Who's really loyal? Who's really scared? This is the ultimate test. Marcus stumbled back, shocked, unsure of what to do. Keisha looked at her brother, fear and admiration mingling in her eyes. Simone was frozen, caught between relief and terror. And then, without warning, the lights in the house went out. Total darkness. Something or someone was moving outside. A shadow crossed the window. And in that instant, the entire house felt like it was holding its breath. No one spoke, no one moved. Because at that moment, the lines between sanity, madness, and betrayal had completely blurred. Jamal Rivers had set the stage. And now, the real game was about to begin. The lights flickered back on, casting long, jittery shadows across the living room. Simone clutched her arms around herself, staring at Jamal and Marcus, her mind spinning. Keisha slowly picked up her phone, holding it like a shield, recording everything in silence. Marcus stepped back, raising his hands as if surrendering. Okay, let's all calm down," he said, his tone no longer confident. There was a hesitation in his voice that hadn't been there before. No need for anyone to get hurt. Jamal's eyes stayed locked on him. He let out a slow, deliberate laugh. "Hurt? Oh, Marcus, you've already hurt me, and now I'm just making sure everyone's cards are on the table." Simone's chest tightened. She realized that for weeks, she had been living inside a storm she hadn't even seen coming. Jamal's madness had been a carefully orchestrated performance, a trap to expose true intentions. Keisha finally spoke, voice steady but low. "What are you doing, Jamal? This isn't healthy." Jamal turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Healthy? Keisha, sometimes sanity is overrated. Sometimes truth is worth more than comfort." Marcus shifted uncomfortably, taking a half step back toward the door. "Look, Jamal, we were just trying to." "Trying to what?" Jamal interrupted, voice sharp now. "Steal from me, undermine me, you think I'm blind." Simone's heart pounded. She felt herself trembling, unsure of who to trust. Every instinct screamed that Jamal was dangerous, but the truth was he hadn't actually hurt anyone yet. And strangely, part of her admired his courage, his control. Jamal pulled a chair from the dining table and sat down deliberately, leaning forward. He placed both hands flat on the table, his eyes never leaving Marcus. "Tonight, you're going to prove who you really are, and everyone else in this room will see exactly where they stand." Keisha crossed her arms. "You're pushing this too far, Jamal. People can get hurt." He smiled faintly. "People will get hurt if the lies continue." The tension in the room thickened. Even the air seemed heavy, as if the house itself were holding its breath. And then the front door slammed open. A gust of wind blew in, scattering papers across the floor. Both Jamal and Marcus turned toward the noise. Simone froze. Keisha took a step forward, instinctively reaching for her sister. Standing in the doorway was a figure neither of them expected. Someone from Jamal's past, someone they thought was long gone. It was Malik Rivers, Jamal's older cousin, tall, broad-shouldered, and with a presence that demanded attention. His dark eyes scanned the room like a hawk. "You've gone too far, Jamal," Malik said quietly, but there was an edge to his voice. "Playing these games, someone's going to get hurt." Jamal's face remained calm, but his eyes flickered. "Malik, I know what you think, but this is the only way to see the truth." Marcus laughed nervously. "See the truth? What is this, some kind of family feud?" Malik's eyes narrowed. "It's bigger than you, Marcus. Step out of the way." Suddenly, Jamal stood, moving swiftly between Malik and Marcus. No, everyone stays right here. It's time, the final test. Simone's hands shook violently. Jamal, what is happening? Why is this happening in our house? Jamal's voice dropped to a whisper, almost intimate. Because, Simone, people show their true colors when they think the masks are on. And tonight, everyone's mask will fall. The tension was unbearable. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum. And then Malik stepped closer to Jamal, stopping just inches away. For a long, terrifying moment, silence fell. And then Jamal spoke 3 words that made Simone's blood run cold. Watch them carefully. Outside, the streetlights flickered. A shadow moved in the distance, watching, waiting. Inside, everyone realized something horrifying. No one was safe, and the truth, whatever it was about to be revealed in ways no one could imagine. The tension in the Rivers house had reached a point where even the walls seemed to press inward. Jamal stood in the center of the living room, his gaze shifting between Marcus, Keisha, and Simone, calculating, waiting. Outside, the street remained quiet, the darkness pressing against the windows like a living thing. Marcus tried to mask his unease, but the earlier bravado had evaporated. "All right," he said, his voice tight. "Let's just talk about this calmly." Jamal didn't answer. He simply walked toward the kitchen and returned with 3 envelopes, each sealed and labeled with names. Simone, Keisha, and Marcus. He placed them carefully on the table. "Open them," he said. His voice was calm, almost soothing, but the weight behind it made everyone freeze. Simone hesitated. What are these?" "Your choices," Jamal said. "Your loyalty, your intentions. Open them and you'll see the truth of what I know." Keisha smirked faintly, confident she would come out on top. Marcus leaned closer, curiosity mixed with fear. Simone, heart pounding, reached for hers last, glancing at Jamal. Inside Simone's envelope was a series of photos and text messages, not from Jamal, but from Keisha and Marcus. The messages outlined plans to take over Jamal's company, move him out of the house, and keep Simone unaware until it was too late. The photos showed secret meetings, whispered conversations, and handshakes that promised betrayal. Simone's hands shook violently. Her chest felt tight. She looked at Keisha, her sister and roommate, and then at Marcus, the charming former partner. The betrayal was undeniable. Keisha opened her envelope next. It contained messages that Jamal himself had orchestrated, fake conversations showing that Simone had supposedly been conspiring with Marcus to undermine Keisha. Keisha's confident smirk faltered. Her eyes widened. This isn't real," she said, disbelief mingling with anger. Jamal nodded slowly. "Real enough to test you. Sometimes fear and temptation reveal what people are willing to do." Marcus tore open his envelope. Inside were videos of him speaking privately with Keisha, plotting to manipulate the company and Jamal's finances. His expression shifted from smug to panicked. He glanced at Jamal. How did you get these?" Jamal smiled faintly. "I've been watching, listening, waiting, and now the truth is out." Simone finally realized the full extent of what her husband had done. He hadn't gone mad. He had created a stage, a labyrinth of deception to see who would betray him, who would remain loyal, and who would try to take advantage of his supposed weakness. Keisha's hands trembled. "Jamal, you set us up," she said, her voice wavering. "Yes," Jamal replied, calm and resolute. "And now you know the cost of your intentions." Marcus swallowed hard. You can't just do this. This is fair." Jamal leaned closer to Marcus. "Fair? Life isn't fair, Marcus. You and Keisha forgot that. I only reminded you." Simone felt a strange mix of fear and relief. Jamal's plan had revealed the truth, yes, but it had also shown her how dangerous the people closest to her could be. She stepped toward Jamal, gripping his arm. You were never really mad." Jamal shook his head. "No, I was testing, and now the final part of the test begins." Before anyone could react, Jamal moved quickly, shutting the blinds and locking the front door. The room was plunged into tense darkness, broken only by the flickering light of a single candle Jamal had lit. He placed his hand over the envelopes, securing them in place. From here on, actions speak louder than words. One false move, and the game is over. The atmosphere was electric. Simone could feel her heart racing. Keisha looked furious, Marcus looked terrified, and Jamal looked like a man who had just claimed control over everything, yet was smiling at the thrill of the challenge. And outside, the shadows shifted again. Someone or something was watching, waiting to see how the next move would unfold. Jamal's eyes narrowed. Tonight, you will see who is truly loyal and who will fall first. No one spoke. The silence was deafening. But Simone knew, deep down, that nothing would ever be the same. The night stretched on, heavy and suffocating. Jamal stood in the center of the living room, watching the others like a general observing a battlefield. The candlelight cast long, flickering shadows across their faces, revealing fear, frustration, and hesitation. Marcus shifted nervously from foot to foot, glancing toward the door as if escape were possible. Keisha's hands tightened into fists, her jaw locked, her eyes darting between Jamal and Marcus. Simone stood frozen, clutching her arms, heart pounding, unsure of what to do next. Jamal finally spoke, his voice calm but piercing. It's time for the final act. You've all had your chance to prove loyalty or reveal your true intentions. Now the consequences begin. Keisha stepped forward, trying to reclaim control. Jamal, you can't just trap us here. This isn't some game. Jamal tilted his head. A game, perhaps, but life itself is a game of truth and deception, and tonight you will see which side you chose. Marcus swallowed hard. Jamal, please. This has gone too far. Let us go. We can talk. We can fix this. Jamal shook his head slowly. Too far? No. This is the exact point we needed to reach. The moment when intentions are clear and masks fall away. He moved toward the kitchen counter and picked up a small device, a speaker connected to his phone. A pre-recorded voice filled the room, whispering secrets he had uncovered over the past weeks. Conversations, financial records, messages, everything. Simone gasped, her hands flying to her mouth. Even she hadn't realized the depth of deception surrounding them. Marcus froze, the color draining from his face. Keisha's confident demeanor faltered as she realized Jamal had anticipated every move, every lie, every manipulation. See, Jamal said, his voice steady. You think people can hide, think actions are unseen, but I've been watching, listening, waiting, and now. He paused, letting the tension swell. Now it's time to decide who survives this test. Keisha's eyes flicked to Simone. She won't believe me, she whispered, panic creeping into her voice. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Jamal smiled faintly. Intentions are always revealed in the end, Keisha. No excuses, no hiding. Marcus tried to speak again, but Jamal raised a hand, silencing him. One wrong word, one wrong move, and the consequences will be immediate. The room fell into a heavy silence. Each person weighed their next move, knowing that Jamal had already seen past all pretenses. Every decision carried risk. Every glance could betray them. Simone finally found her voice. Jamal, what do you want from us? Jamal stepped closer to her, his eyes softening slightly. I want truth, Simone, only the truth. Who will protect what is theirs? Who will betray it? Outside, the wind picked up. The shadows in the neighborhood seemed to shift closer to the house. The candle flickered violently, throwing distorted images across the walls. Keisha's resolve broke first. Her confident smile crumbled and she sank into a chair, trembling. I can't, she whispered. I was wrong. Marcus's fear deepened. He took a step back, almost pleading. We can work together. We can fix this. Jamal raised his hand again. No, words are cheap. Actions will prove loyalty. Then, in a sudden motion, Jamal grabbed both envelopes, the ones containing the evidence of betrayal, and held them high. The flickering candlelight glinted off the corners, illuminating each name. You see, this is the truth of what's hidden in every heart, he said. Now, it's your choice. Admit it or fall into the trap of your own lies. Simone's hands shook, but she stepped forward. I stay loyal, always. Jamal nodded slowly, acknowledging her declaration. Good, loyalty is rare, but what about the others? Keisha looked down, unable to meet his gaze. Marcus's eyes darted around the room, panic rising. And that's when Jamal did something no one expected. He tossed the envelopes onto the floor. Papers scattered everywhere, evidence exposed, no longer hidden. Simone gasped. Keisha froze. Marcus's face turned pale. Jamal leaned back against the wall, his voice calm but chilling. Now, watch closely, because who falls and who rises will be revealed in the next moments. The tension was unbearable. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum. Every shadow seemed to breathe. And just as the room seemed about to explode with confrontation, the front door burst open. It was Malik this time. It was someone else. Someone who had been quietly observing all along. Someone whose allegiance had remained a mystery. Jamal's eyes narrowed. Ah, so you've come to play as well. The figure stepped inside, and the candlelight revealed a face that made Simone freeze in terror and fascination. The newcomer moved through the doorway with a quiet confidence that made the room shift in energy. The candlelight caught her face, sharp features, dark skin, eyes that seemed to pierce straight through to the heart of everyone present. She wore a fitted jacket over casual jeans, her hair pulled into a tight bun. Every step she took was deliberate, controlled, and completely unafraid. Who are you? Simone stammered, her voice barely audible. The woman's eyes scanned the room, lingering briefly on Jamal, then Marcus, then Keisha. Name's Layla Washington, she said calmly, and I've been following the situation here for some time. Marcus's shoulders tensed and he muttered, Following? Who the hell are you? Layla's gaze hardened. Someone who knows how games like this end, badly, and I don't like bad endings. Jamal's expression didn't change. If anything, he seemed intrigued. Interesting. Another player in the arena. Tell me, Layla, whose side are you on? Layla's lips curved into a small smile. The side that sees the truth, Jamal. The side that ensures the guilty face what they deserve. Simone shivered. She had been terrified of Jamal, Marcus, Keisha. But this woman, there was an authority to her presence that made even Jamal pause slightly. Keisha, still seated, frowned. And what makes you think you can just waltz in here and control this? Layla's eyes locked on Keisha's. Control? I'm not here to control. I'm here to observe, to intervene if necessary. Marcus laughed nervously, backing toward the door. Observe, intervene, you're crazy, get out. Jamal raised a hand, stopping him. Let him be. Layla has a purpose here, and purpose is fascinating. Simone's heart raced. She didn't understand how Jamal could remain so calm, so composed, even with an unknown figure in the room, someone who seemed capable of disrupting everything he had planned. Layla walked slowly around the table, her eyes sweeping over the scattered envelopes and photos. So this is the evidence, the lies, the manipulations, she said softly. Quite the tangled web you've all woven. She stopped in front of Keisha, crouching slightly so she was eye level with her. And what about you, young lady? Did you really think no one would notice? Did you really think your schemes would remain hidden? Keisha swallowed hard, her hands trembling. I didn't mean I just... Layla straightened and turned her attention to Marcus. And you, pretending to be innocent while scheming behind the scenes. Bold but foolish. Marcus's face went pale. I can explain. Jamal stepped forward, his presence commanding. No explanations. Actions speak louder than words. Simone felt trapped between the two powerful figures. Jamal, the man who orchestrated everything, and Layla, the mysterious newcomer whose authority was undeniable. Layla's gaze finally fell on Simone. And you, caught in the middle, you can choose to stand by truth or be complicit in lies. Simone's chest tightened. She realized this night wasn't just about betrayal, it was about survival. Every word, every choice, every glance could determine the outcome. Jamal's voice cut through the tension. Enough talk, the final move begins now. Suddenly, the house lights flickered violently. A gust of wind rattled the windows. The candlelight warped the shadows, making the room feel alive, like it was holding its breath. Layla stepped closer to the table and picked up one of the envelopes. "Let's see whose plans are worth anything," she said calmly, opening it with precision. As the papers fell, a shocking revelation hit everyone in the room. The betrayal ran deeper than even Jamal had anticipated. Simone's eyes widened. Keisha gasped. Marcus froze, unable to speak. Jamal's eyebrows rose slightly. "Interesting," he murmured. "Very interesting." Layla looked up at him, a glint of satisfaction in her eyes. The game isn't over yet, but now the real test begins. Outside, the shadows in the neighborhood seemed to lean closer, waiting. And inside, everyone realized one terrifying truth. No one was truly in control. The air in the Rivers house had turned electric. Every movement, every sound was amplified. Every shadow seemed to stretch unnaturally across the walls. Jamal and Layla stood opposite each other, two predators assessing the same prey, while Simone, Keisha, and Marcus were caught in the tension between them. Jamal's voice cut the silence. "Layla, I didn't expect you to step into my little experiment, but perhaps it's time for an even deeper truth to be revealed." Layla's eyes glinted. "I didn't come here to play your game, Jamal. I came to make sure the stakes are clear and that no one gets away with deception." Simone clutched her arms, realizing the room had become a battlefield of minds, not just wills. Every person was now a piece on a chessboard, and any wrong move could cost them everything. Keisha's face had gone pale. She realized that her previous confidence had evaporated. Every lie she had told, every manipulation, had been seen by Jamal and now observed by Layla. Panic bubbled in her chest. Marcus, normally slick and calm, was sweating and muttering under his breath. I can't believe this. How does he know all of this?" Jamal smiled faintly, his demeanor eerily calm. "Observation, patience, and the willingness to play the fool until the right moment. You'd be surprised how many people reveal themselves when they think you've lost your mind." Simone's eyes widened as she realized it. Jamal's madness had been an act. Every scream, every wild gesture, every strange ritual had been a test, a trap to catch the traitors. But now the game had shifted. Layla had entered, and her presence added a new layer of danger. Layla moved closer to the table, her fingers brushing over the envelopes scattered across it. "Each of you has secrets," she said calmly, "and those secrets are about to define your future. Jamal, your test has worked. Now let's see if anyone can survive the consequences of their choices." Jamal's eyes narrowed. "Consequences, yes, that is the final point of all this. But I wonder, are you really here to help or to challenge me?" Layla's expression didn't falter. "I'm here to ensure the truth isn't buried, that's all." The room seemed to hold its breath. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows. Inside, every heartbeat felt loud. Keisha shifted in her chair, glancing at Marcus. We should work together," she whispered. "We can fix this." "No," Jamal interrupted sharply. "There's no fixing, only revealing, only truth." Simone's chest tightened. "Truth at what cost?" she whispered. Jamal stepped closer to her. "At the cost of lies. Sometimes the truth is the only thing that can save you from betrayal, from greed, from yourself." Layla picked up one of the envelopes and slowly opened it. Inside were photographs that shocked even her. Images of someone Simone had trusted completely, making deals behind her back. A betrayal no one had anticipated. Simone gasped, clutching her chest. Keisha covered her mouth with her hand. Marcus went pale. Jamal's smile was subtle but chilling. "The real test isn't about who lies or who cheats. It's about who survives when everything is exposed." Layla's gaze shifted to Jamal, a faint nod of acknowledgement passing between them. Then she looked at the others. "This is your moment. Choose carefully. One wrong decision and there's no turning back." Simone realized she had to act. Keisha's eyes were filled with fear and shame. Marcus's confidence had evaporated. She looked at Jamal and Layla, then at the scattered evidence, and made her choice. Her voice was steady, firm. I will stand for the truth, no matter what. Jamal's eyes softened slightly approvingly. Good, loyalty is rare, and loyalty is survival. But even as she spoke, Simone knew that tonight wasn't just about loyalty. It was about who would fall completely, and who would rise above deception, greed, and betrayal. And in the shadows outside, something moved again. Watching, waiting, ready to strike when the moment was right. The house had become a crucible of truth, and no one could leave unscathed. The night had grown darker, heavier, almost suffocating. Every heartbeat in the river's house seemed amplified, echoing off the walls. Jamal stood in the center of the living room, calm, composed, as if he had been waiting for this exact moment all along. Layla was beside him, her presence sharp and commanding, yet with an air of quiet calculation. Simone, Keisha, and Marcus were spread across the room, tense and uncertain, knowing the final outcome depended entirely on their next actions. Jamal's eyes scanned each person, lingering just a little longer on Simone. "This is it," he said softly. "No more masks, no more illusions. Tonight, everyone will be revealed for who they truly are." Keisha's face was pale, guilt and fear battling within her. She glanced at Marcus, whose confident demeanor had completely crumbled. Simone, still trembling, realized she was the only one whose loyalty had never wavered. She had been caught in the storm, but had never strayed from the truth. Jamal's voice cut through the tense silence. "Keisha, Marcus, it's time." Keisha opened her mouth to speak, but Jamal raised a hand. "No words, actions only." He motioned to the table where the envelopes still lay, now scattered and open. Layla stepped forward, picking up one of the envelopes containing evidence against Marcus. "This is your moment," she said calmly. "How will you respond when the truth stares you in the face?" Marcus's hands shook. He took a step back. I didn't mean for any of it to happen. It was just ambition. I didn't want anyone to get hurt." Jamal shook his head slowly. "Ambition without honesty is poison. You almost lost everything because of it. You still might." Keisha sank to the floor, her face buried in her hands. I was wrong," she whispered. "I let greed blind me. I betrayed my own family." Simone stepped forward, her voice firm. "It's over. I'm done with the lies. If there's any chance to make this right, it starts with honesty. All of us right now." Jamal nodded slightly, as if approving her words. He turned to Layla. "The test is complete. They've shown themselves." Layla's eyes swept over the room. "Some have survived their own choices. Others must face the consequences." Simone looked at Keisha and Marcus. Despite their fear and shame, she realized they were human, flawed, yes, but capable of change. Jamal, however, had orchestrated this entire ordeal with a precision that left her breathless. Jamal moved toward the window, peering into the night outside. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "people only reveal their true selves when they believe everything is lost. That's when loyalty is measured. That's when betrayal becomes visible. And tonight, every truth has come to light." Keisha raised her head, tears streaming down her face. "Jamal, I understand now. I've learned. Please forgive me." Jamal's gaze softened slightly. "Forgiveness is earned, Keisha, but recognition of wrongdoing is the first step." Marcus, still trembling, looked at Simone. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right." Simone nodded slowly. She turned toward Jamal. You weren't mad. You were testing us. All this chaos, it was your way of showing who we really are." Jamal gave a small smile, one that carried both relief and exhaustion. "Yes, madness was the mask, truth was the test, and now we move forward, stronger if we choose to." The tension in the room finally began to ease, the shadows retreating from the corners. The wind outside had calmed, and the candlelight flickered steadily, illuminating the faces of those who had survived the storm. Simone stepped closer to Jamal. I never doubted you. I just didn't know the depth of this plan." Jamal's hand reached for hers, gently squeezing it. "Sometimes love and trust must be tested, and sometimes the hardest battles are within the people closest to you." Keisha stood slowly, wiping her tears. "I've been selfish, I've been greedy, but I won't let it define me." Marcus exhaled shakily. And I'll rebuild my integrity, starting tonight. Jamal looked at all of them, his eyes steady, commanding, yet carrying a rare softness. The truth has a way of setting people free, but freedom is a choice. Every one of you must decide how to live it. The night was still, almost serene, as the Rivers family and Marcus stood together, breathing in the aftermath of deception, fear, and revelation. They had survived Jamal's test, faced their own darkness, and come out the other side. And outside, the shadows no longer seemed threatening. The storm had passed. But everyone knew, deep down, that the lessons of this night would echo forever. Truth, loyalty, and betrayal had all been revealed, and in the end, those who chose honesty and courage had survived. The house, once a crucible of fear, now felt like a place of quiet understanding. The ordeal was over, but the memory of the night, the test, the madness, and the revelations would never be forgotten. Jamal Rivers had gone mad, just to test his wife and sister. And now, everyone knew who truly fell for it, and who stood strong. The end. Viewer engagement prompt, final chapter. If you made it this far, like and subscribe to the channel to catch more suspenseful stories like this. Share this video with friends and comment below. Who surprised you the most in this story? Keisha, Marcus, or Simone? Where are you watching from? And what would you have done if you were in their shoes?